In the isolated small town of Halbrook, Ohio, local folklore operates much like the weather, an accepted atmospheric law of nature. The town's most rigid law governs a specific window of time. If your phone rings between 2:58 and 3:03 in the morning, displaying your own name and photo on the caller ID, you have entered a high-stakes anomaly. Survival depends on a three-part protocol of total inaction. You must not answer, you must not silence the device, and the following morning you must never check the missed call log. For decades, Halbrook residents have relied on this perfect obedience, trusting that passive behavior will ward off the threat. This reveals a common community reflex. When faced with the unknown, people adopt paralyzing, restrictive rules. The town operates under the assumption that compliance is the only path to safety. Jesse Calloway returned to Halbrook to bury his father, who had died suddenly from an aneurysm. He found himself forced to test the town's assumptions. Before his death, Jesse's father had received the 3 a.m. call and executed the survival rule flawlessly. He followed every instruction, and the curse claimed him anyway, just 4 days later. Sleeping in his childhood home, Jesse's own phone buzzed at 2:58 a.m. His own face stared back at him from the screen. Jesse was now trapped in a rigged system. His father's death proved that the town's survival rule was structurally flawed. If flawless obedience leads to the same outcome as failure, then the rule isn't a defense. It's just a way to wait for a guaranteed death. Jesse decided to investigate the mechanics of the trap by breaking the first rule. He checked the call log in the daylight, searching for a rational, mundane explanation. He discovered an unprecedented anomaly, an 11-second voicemail in his own voice. The recording was flat and patient, confirming that Jesse had a longer countdown than his father, but a countdown nonetheless. This signal identifies the second self, an echo calling backward from further down their timeline. The anomaly triggers timeline collapse. Engaging with the signal forcefully pulls the present self forward, merging with the version that has already reached the end. This creates a mathematical certainty of death. The victim is caught in a gravitational pull from their own future, and the only way to survive is to physically disrupt the timeline before the 2 points merge. Halbrook lore contains only one documented survivor, Dorothy Fenn. She stayed alive by breaking every rule the town had established. When the third call arrived, Dorothy answered and spoke first. She attempted to sever the connection by declaring, "I'm not you anymore. I'm choosing something else." While Jesse's father waited in the dark for a miracle, Dorothy Fenn chose aggressive defiance. She targeted the behavioral loop that the town had followed for generations. Jesse realized that survival required more than just hiding. To stop the timeline collapse, he had to confront the second self and find a way to make his present self diverge from the future version on the other end of the line. On the third night, Jesse discarded the inherited rules entirely. Overcoming his hesitation, he finally answered the call. He attempted Dorothy's loophole, but the second self rejected the script. The voice on the phone explained that words alone carry no weight. The timeline was still pulling him forward because they were still the same person. The second self revealed its true nature. It is a lonely future version of Jesse, burdened by the isolation of already knowing how his story ends. The future self reaches back purely to bridge that isolation. The tragedy of the curse is that this simple desire for connection is what creates the fatal pull, dragging the present self toward the grave just to end the future self's loneliness. Jesse was facing the paralyzing inevitability of a predefined destiny. If he continued the conversation, the connection would finalize, and he would become the version of himself that had already reached the end of the road. Jesse broke the mathematical certainty through a physical act of divergence. He told the voice that he alone decided what happened next, took a breath, and then he hung up. By terminating the connection and refusing to follow the predicted path, he forced the 2 points on the timeline to branch apart. 2 years later, Jesse is still alive in Halbrook. He achieved survival by proving that the future self only exists as long as the present self continues to walk the same road. Adhering to inherited rules born from fear only ensures you stay on a fatal, predetermined track. True survival requires the courage to step off that path, disconnect from the predicted end, and choose an unwritten road.